7.5, solving quadratic equations by factoring. So let's take a look at the steps. A quadratic equation is an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So essentially, we have a trinomial like we have seen many times before that we have factored, and then we have equal to 0. The steps to solve a quadratic equation are the following 3 steps. We need to get a 0 on one side of the equation. We need to factor completely, and then we set each factor equal to 0 and we solve. Let's take a look at the 4 examples. We will follow these 3 steps. So in this example, we have 5x squared plus 15x equal to 0. Step 1 is done. We have a 0. Step 2, we have to factor. We're going to factor these 2 terms. In order to factor, we notice that there is a GCF of 5x. Let's factor out the GCF. This is completely factored. We can't factor this anymore. Step 3. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve. Okay, what do I mean by each factor? There are 2 factors here. 5x is a factor. That's one factor. And x plus 3 is the second factor. So we're going to set 2 equations equal to 0. 5x is equal to 0. X plus 3 is equal to 0. We have 2 equations. We solve both of them. To solve the first equation, divide by 5. X is equal to 0. 0 divided by 5 is 0. X plus 3 equals to 0. Subtract 3 both sides. X is equal to -3. Equation 1 is solved. We have 2 answers. We have 0 and -3. Example B. In this example, our equation is not set to 0. So what we have to do is we have to subtract 2x from both sides, and we want to write the trinomial in order. X squared, x, and then the number, because we need to factor. So first subtract 2x from both sides. When we subtract 2x, okay, subtract 2x from both sides, you want to write your answer in order. So we want to write minus 2x minus 24 equal to 0. I subtracted 2x from both sides. I put the 2x here because then the trinomial will be in order. We're going to do step 2, factor completely. Notice that we have a GCF of 2. We need to factor the trinomial. We use the same rules as before. X times x. We need opposite signs. Factors of 12 that give us a -1 are going to be -4 and +3. Okay, step 3, set each factor equal to 0. How many factors do we have here? You have this x minus 4, and I have x plus 3. 2 does not have a variable, it's just the number 2. So we don't, if you have just a single number, we don't consider, or we don't set that number equal to 0. So we only write x plus 3 equal to 0, x minus 4 equal to 0. We solve each of these. You're going to subtract 3. X is negative 3. And then we also add 4 to both sides. And we get that x is equal to 4. So in this case, we have two solutions as well. Next example looks a little bit different because we have fractions, but that's okay. What you want to do is we want to set this equation equal to 0 because that is always the first step. We also would like to eliminate the fractions. How do you eliminate fractions? Multiply the whole equation by, in this case, 3, because 3 is your common denominator. Multiply the whole equation by 3, and then that will eliminate the fractions. So let's do two things. Set the equation equal to 0 and multiply by 3. We could do those two things at the same time. Multiply every single part by 3, or 3 over 1. So again, when you multiply by 3, again, the 3 in the numerator with the 3 in the denominator reduces. We're just left with 2x squared plus 2x times 3, that's 6x. We're going to, in this case, again, 3 and 3, those reduce, you're left with 20, but I have to move it to this side, so it'll become a minus 20, equal to 0. Okay, so again, I just subtracted 20 and moved it over to the left side. Now I have just a regular trinomial which needs to be factored completely. Let's factor out the GCF. 2 x squared plus 3x minus 10. We need to factor the trinomial. Bring down the 2. X times x, opposite signs. Factors of 10 such that we get a positive 3 when we subtract. So factors of 10 that give me a positive 3 are going to be positive 5 and negative 2. Make sure that you check that you factored correctly. Then we set x plus 2 and x plus 5 equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides. Tells us that x is 2. Subtract 5 from both sides. X equals negative 5. And that is completely done. Next and last example, part D. This example is the last type of problem that you'll see in this section. This problem is just a little bit longer compared to the other ones we did. So we will follow the same steps. We need to subtract 9 so that we have a 0 on one side. Step 2, we have to factor completely. If you look at the left side, yes, this first part looks like it's factored, but then we have this minus 9. Because of the minus 9, this is not factored. What we have to do is FOIL, multiply these two, and then combine like terms. And once that's done, then we can factor. Let me show you. You multiply x squared plus 3x minus 5x minus 15 minus 9 equals to 0. Now, combine your like terms. We get x squared minus 2x minus 24 equal to 0. This is where you want to get to. You want to get to this trinomial, and then we factor it. This is step 3. X times x, opposite signs. Factors of 24 that give us a negative 2. Minus 6 and plus 4. We set each factor equal to 0. X equals negative 4, x equals 6. Those are the two solutions. Okay, so this example, D, this one's the one that is longer and that you have to FOIL, combine like terms, and then factor. This problem looks confusing sometimes because it looks like it's already factored, but once you subtract 9, it's no longer factored. And so that's why we have to FOIL and do all the rest of the work here. So I tried to give you examples of each type of problem. You might want to take notes, maybe write this down, and then use these examples to do the problems for your certify, your quizzes, and the ones that are in the book.